Wakey wakey, the Kellogg's football camps are back this summer. To claim a free place, grab a promotional pack of Kellogg's cornflakes, Cocoa Pops or Rice Krispies. More information is available via the link in the description of this episode. Would you like to score epic goals like Erling Haaland, Alessia Russo or Kylian Mbappe? Well, look no further than the Score Like a Striker book. The first book in a fantastic new series from the best-selling author Ben Littleton, whose previous books include the likes of 12 Yards, Edge and the smash hit Football School series. If you haven't already, then listen to the episode which I've done with Ben, and a link to buy that very book is in the description of that episode. So, what are you waiting for? Grab yourself a book, listen to that episode and score like a striker. Score Like a Striker is published by Puffin. Welcome to the Football for Kids podcast with me, Darren Rees. It's time for another episode on yet another club. A club with so much history and so many brilliant moments. A club who's also had a bit of bad luck over the years. This time we're off to Spain and we're off to Madrid. And we of course are going to Atlético Madrid. Before we get into this episode properly, let's do a couple of your Apple Podcast reviews. And a massive shout out to everybody who's left a 5-star review on Spotify or Amazon or Audible, and of course on Apple Podcast, where you can write something as well. The first one is from Paul GHD. It says, best podcast in the world, 5 stars. It says, hi Darren, my name is Marvin, I'm 7 years old and I play for Formatine FC. Can you give a shout out to my teammates please? My favourite podcast episode you did was Messi versus Ronaldo. I've given you a 5-star rating. Well, thank you very much Marvin. Thank you for the podcast. I support Aberdeen FC and Man United. I'd love to hear an episode on Napoli FC. Thank you from Marvin. Well, Marvin, who's 7 years old, the Aberdeen and Manchester United fan, a huge, humongous shout out to you, your team, your coaches, and every single person that you play football with. I hope that you had a wonderful season last season, and I hope that this season is even better for you. And don't you worry, Napoli FC is on my very, 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 very long list of episodes which I need to get round and write. Next up is from Jack and Ezra. It says, we love your show, 5 stars, Darren. Hi, we're Jack and Ezra. We absolutely love your podcast and we are cousins. I'm in year 7 and Ezra is in year 3. We both have season tickets to our favourite clubs. I'm an Arsenal fan and Ezra is a Watford fan. Not sure if you've already done these episodes, but we both agreed to adding Declan Rice and Troy Deeney to your never-ending long list of episodes to write would be a good one. That is from Jack and Ezra. Well, first of all, a huge shout out to the pair of you. Great to know that you're cousins and you both love football and you both listen to the Football for Kids podcast. I really appreciate your support and you taking the time to write a 5-star review and write to me via Apple Podcast. Also, a massive shout out to everybody that you know if you're in a football team, your teammates and everyone else alike. I have done an episode on Declan Rice. I haven't done an episode on Troy Deeney. And I saw Troy Deeney not that long ago. He was sat a couple of rows away from me at the EFL League 2 Cup final at Wembley Stadium. And if I got an opportunity to speak to him, I was going to see if he fancied coming on the podcast. But I didn't, so I'll just have to write an episode on him instead. Now remember, if you want a shout out or a message, then you could either send an email to darren@footballforkidspodcast.com, you could write an Apple Podcast review, or if you really want to guarantee yourself a shout out for your team or your cousins or your brother or your dog or whoever it is, then please consider becoming a club captain on Patreon. Not only are you getting a shout out, you get ad-free content, you get exclusive episodes, you get early releases, and you support the podcast and help me to keep it flowing and going. Right then, now that's done, let's get into it, shall we? On the club in Spain which have been lighting up the Spanish top division for a very, very long time. They're a club who have been in a Champions League final or two, and a club who have always given the likes of FC Barça and Real Madrid a real run for their money. And we'll get onto the money stuff a little bit later on. Let's get into this episode on Atlético Madrid. So the story goes, and you know, if you've been listening to this podcast for quite a while, I love a story. Especially Charlie and the Mystery of a Missing Cup, which you can listen to right now. Atlético Madrid was started all the way back in 1903, which was, as I record this today, 121 years ago. Atlético Madrid, however, haven't always been called or known as Atlético Madrid. In fact, as the story is told, it was started by 3 students after they watched Athletic Bilbao win the 1903 Copa del Rey final. This was said to be a source of inspiration, and off the back of that, Atlético Madrid, as we know it today, was born. When the club was first formed, you'll like this one, they started playing in blue and white striped kits. And as you'll know, these days they're famous for playing in those red and white striped kits. But the reason they started off in the blue and white striped kits is because back in the day, bed mattresses 9 times out of 10 had a blue and white striped cloth cover on them, and the unused material from those mattress covers was then used to make football jerseys for teams like Atlético Madrid, which is why one of their many nicknames is Los Colchoneros, which translates to the mattress makers in English. What a little fact that is. Then in late 1909, someone who was a part of Atlético Madrid went on a kit finding mission to England. Back in those days, all the kits were very similar. There wasn't sponsors or anything like that. There wasn't names on the back of shirts, and very rarely was there numbers, not until a lot later on. The kits got dirty and stained often, so they needed several kits to keep them going. The chap from Atlético Madrid actually went over to go and get a blue and white striped kit from a team like Blackburn Rovers, but he was unsuccessful in doing so. Instead, he returned back to beautiful sunny Spain in Southampton's kit, which was and is apparently why, these days, 120 years or so later, Atlético Madrid still wear red and white stripes. It was all thanks to that team on the south coast. Blimey. We've only been going a few minutes and we've had 2 corkers. What a time to be alive. So, there they were, off and running, quite literally, from blue and white to red and white, and they were playing some pretty good football too. And because of that, it didn't take them long to pick up a good following. Atlético Madrid have always been a team who have attracted the working class of Madrid. So working class folk from in and around the area would come to watch them, and before they knew it, they had a solid army of supporters. By 1911, Atlético Madrid had built quite a team. So much so that the players were so good that Athletic Bilbao, who were one of the top teams back then, made it to yet another Copa del Rey final. And get this, they borrowed some of the squad from Atlético Madrid. Yes, you heard me right, they borrowed some of the players. That's like Aston Villa making it to the FA Cup final, calling Real Madrid and saying, alright, I don't suppose we could borrow Mbappe and Vinny Jr. this weekend, could we? We're short of a couple of players. But, like pretty much every team we've spoken about on the podcast in nearly 400 episodes, Atlético Madrid have had their ups and my goodness have they had their downs. Especially at the start of their journey. As a club, they went through a series of name changes. They went down the leagues and then up them again, and they went down them again, and they pretty much repeated that until 1939, when they won their first ever La Liga title. But it didn't stop there, because they won the league yet again in the following season. In fact, Atlético Madrid won the league a fair few times back in these days, and they were a real force in the Spanish top division, and they were always there to make sure that Real Madrid and Barcelona knew it wasn't just about those two. To tell you the truth, it seemed that Atlético Madrid really upped their game whenever they played Real Madrid, and they looked like a different team. especially in big cup matches, like when they beat them 2 times in a row in 2 Copa del Rey finals in the 60s. It's fair to say the Real players, managers and fans were never really happy when they had to play Atlético Madrid, regardless of the competition. Atlético Madrid have had some good times and bad times over the years, until the late 90s when everything went, well, I guess a bit pear-shaped. And for the first time in well over 60 years, they were shockingly relegated from the Spanish top division, and they had to find their way back to top-flight football, which, in a country like Spain, is not easy. Everyone is hungry, and everybody is fighting for promotion in La Liga. In the early to mid-2000s, Atlético were back in the Spanish top division, because that's just the type of team that they are. And by the mid-2000s, they were a serious team again, thanks to incredible players like Fernando Torres and this Argentinian fella. You may have heard of him. What was his name? Oh yeah, Sergio Aguero. He was alright too. But the real turning point for Atlético Madrid came thanks to a legendary Argentine player and now manager, Diego Simeone, who joined as a head coach in 2011, and really rarely this happens these days, but he's still there today. Well, as I record this, anything can happen in football, you know that. Diego, since taking the reins, has won the Europa League with them in 2010, in 2012 and 2018, and he's got them to 2 Champions League finals in 2014 and in 2016. What's remarkable about what Diego has done is he's managed to achieve so much with the team with such a little budget in comparison to what FC Barça and Real Madrid have to play with. He has done some tremendous stuff for that club. Now, I don't know if you've ever noticed, or if you've even bothered to have a good look at the Atlético Madrid crest, which they wear proudly on their shirts and is seen all over the place in their stadium. It's called El Oso y el Madrono, which translates to, in English, the bear and the strawberry tree. And it's a big black bear leaning up against, well, you guessed it, a strawberry tree. Well, there's good reason for this. The bear and the strawberry tree is iconic in the city of Madrid, and it has so much history. I won't go through it all now because, well, we'll be here until next year. If you walk the streets of Madrid and have a look at the drain covers, you will see the bear and the strawberry tree. If you walk down particular streets, you'll see statues of the bear and the strawberry tree. And if you look closely, almost everywhere in Madrid, there will be signs of the bear and the strawberry tree. Atlético Madrid have it in their crest to show how proud they are to be a part of the city of Madrid and to show the city that they are Madrid. Atlético are a club full of passion, full of history, but also they're a club who've had their fair share of, well, I guess you could call it bad luck. They've been in 3 European Cup finals, aka Champions Leagues. Once in 1974, and then again in 2014, and then again in 2016. But they've never ever won it. The 1974 final was horrendous for the team. They made it to extra time. It got to the 120th minute, and everybody in the stadium was sure it was going to go to penalties. And then, the very, very last kick of the game, they lost it. That was a bitter one to swallow. However, losing in 2014 and 2016 to Real Madrid, that can't have been easier either. Regardless of the ups, the downs, the highs and the lows, they are one of the most well-supported football clubs in Europe, and they have a huge following around the world as well. And when the new La Liga season begins and you watch them in the Spanish top division or in the Champions League, you know all about them. Their kits, why they wear red and white, and of course, why that bear and the strawberry tree means so very much to them. And remember, if you know someone who loves football just as much as you do, then please tell them about Football for Kids. And whether you're playing football soon, watching it on the telly or pitchside, I hope that you enjoy the game. See you next time.
podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Shop the Sherwin-Williams 4th of July sale and get 30% off paints and stains June 27th through July 7th. With prices starting at $34.29, it's the perfect time to transform your space with color. Whether you're looking to revamp your interior or exterior, we have you covered with bold hues, soothing neutrals, and everything in between. Visit your neighborhood Sherwin-Williams store or shop the sale online. Delivery available on qualifying orders. Click the banner to learn more. Retail sales only. Some exclusions apply. See store for details.
You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/kidsandfamily. Just go to Indeed.com/kidsandfamily right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.